On to money matters now. The rand dipped slightly against the dollar this morning, ending a four-day winning streak that had put it on a two-week high, supported in part by bond inflows. For an in-depth look at how the markets are faring this hour, we are joined by independent analyst Jimmy Moyaha. Always a pleasure, Jimmy. So take us through how the markets are faring in early trade ahead of the much-anticipated midterm budget speech tomorrow.
Good morning. The rand opened slightly weaker. We saw the rand firm to about 14.87 overnight. It's back above 15.10 at the moment. The top 40 was up about 0.5% with gains across Naspers, Impala, Remco, Vodacom and Delta. We're seeing the top 40 trade territory just above the 60,000 mark, which is very positive for the top 40, having bounced off of that key 60,000 level last week, especially as we head into, as you rightly mentioned, that MTBPS tomorrow.
I'm curious, are the markets moved, I beg your pardon, moved at all, by the activity by Eskom? So with each stage of load shedding that gets announced, do they get tickled at all?
So I think at the moment what's driving a lot of the sentiment has been around a couple of factors. Eskom has been one of the factors, but I think the impact of the load shedding stages and the adjustments to the stages is seeing less and less within the market, just purely because the investors are starting to sort of price that in as a major disruption. If we see significant improvements or significant distress from Eskom's side beyond the current situation, then I think we'll see a bit of a sharper reaction, particularly in something like the rand. But I think at the moment all eyes are on MTBPS, all eyes are on the US inflation numbers coming out today, the initial jobless claims numbers coming out today, as well as they'll give sort of guidance and direction on where we stand on inflation from a U.S. perspective and potentially from a global perspective heading into this last quarter of the year.
Let's take a look at Vodacom Group coming out with an announcement that it will acquire Vodafone Egypt for 41 billion rand. Talk us through that transaction, especially when we take a look at how, these companies, telecoms companies, have been faring in the rest of the continent.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, from Vodacom's perspective, this is, I would say, a much overdue strategic move in expanding into Africa. If you look at their competitor MTN, they've been absolutely making a fortune from MTN Nigeria, MTN Ghana, and their African expansion. So it's about time Vodacom got into something of the space. Egypt is a very large market, huge potential for them. The 55% stake they're acquiring in Vodafone, they're going to be paying for that with about 8 billion rands worth of cash, and about 242 million Vodacom shares are going to be issued to cover that. We saw that Vodacom in trade early this morning was up some 3% and it's continuing to perform well at the moment. So the market is receiving those news quite well. But more importantly, if you look at Egypt and you look at the reach that this now presents for Vodacom, the Vodafone division in Egypt currently holds about 43% of the revenue market share in Egypt. They've got about 43 million customers across their retail and business enterprise divisions. And they've also got a huge area of expansion that Vodacom's looking to play off of, which MTN played off of in Nigeria quite well, which is the fintech and the mobile money space. There's rumors of around 80% of Egypt's 100 million people or 100 million population being unbanked, and so that's huge opportunity for Vodacom in that respect if they're able to sort of get their mobile money off the ground there and able to do that quite quickly.
So maybe there's something to be said about ease of doing business on the continent. Let's stay with news from Vodacom. They've also partnered with Remco in a 13.2 billion rand fiber partnership. Talk us through that deal.
Yeah, sure. So on that side, they've sort of got into a co-controlling stake with Remco and New GX Capital. And the sort of setup that they're going for there is Vodacom will take about 30% stake, with the Remco side of it taking around 70% there. But the most important thing there is that it's a co-controlling stake. So each of the parties are going to bring different things to the table. We have the Remco side through the CIVH business that they've got there, bringing through the Vumatel assets as well as the Dark Fiber Africa assets. We've got Vodacom bringing through 4.2 billion rands worth of infrastructure on their fiber side. They're also putting in about 6 billion rand in cash, and then there is sort of a secondary option or secondary phase where they will acquire more shares to make up the balance of what they need to get to that 30% holding. At the moment, they're valuing that at about 3 billion rand, so that will be sort of comprising the entire 13.2 billion if you add that up. But Vodacom also interestingly has the option to take up an additional 10% stake within around 180 days from when they I think it's from when they initially begin this process, or once this has been approved and that sort of thing. So they can take up an additional 10%, and how they raise that, I think, will be probably in line with however they raise the remaining 3 billion for their secondary purchase of shares. I think what we need to focus on here is that while this is a potentially good deal for Vodacom, it still does need to go through the Competition Commission, of course, for approval. And if it does go ahead there, then we can get more excited about this, just because of the concentration that this would then put in terms of Vodacom in the fiber space. It would make them quite a big fiber player within South Africa as well as potentially within Africa if they then go and expand that route.
Interesting. So Delta Property Fund has appointed Siyabonga Mbanjwa as a permanent CEO with effect from the 1st of February 2022. What do we know about him?
Well, Mr. Mbanjwa comes with about 24 years of experience in the property space and in various spaces. I mean, he was previously at Old Mutual Properties. He was recently at Pace Property Group. So he's coming with a wealth of experience in the property space, and I think that's going to be a very good fit for Delta at the moment. Their interim CEO will stay on, of course. They've said for up to 12 months to just assist in a smooth transition from there. The market's very happy to receive this news. Delta was trading up some 3% as well today, but this could also be off the back of the fact that Delta did also provide us with some news around their financials. Their share price was up at some point as high as 24% yesterday. They announced that they're selling about 4 properties for around 176 million in an effort to reduce their debt. The main thing that they wanted to focus on for this year and for 2022 going forward was reducing their loan-to-value ratios. If you remember, Delta had those issues on the JSE. There was a time where they stopped trading on the JSE as well, and they wanted to really rein in their debt and get that under control. They managed to sort of report positive numbers around consistent revenues and that sort of thing for 2020, but the main thing that they focused on was reducing that loan-to-value ratio from 55% to below 50% before August this year, and they want to get it to below 40% before August of 2024. So I think the combination of the debt reduction strategy, bringing in such an experienced CEO on a permanent basis, I think that's really going to do a bit of positive news for Delta at this time.
Just before I let you go, some news coming in yesterday that Royal Bafokeng had snubbed Implats, choosing to go with Northern instead in terms of that deal. What did you make of that?
Well, that was actually an interesting deal. I mean, Northern, from their perspective, was looking to acquire it was a strategic acquisition from their perspective in terms of expansion. And if you look at why Northern particularly went after that space is, from their perspective, they're looking at playing a major role in the electronic vehicles or electrical vehicles space. And platinum is one of the key metals that goes into electrical vehicles. So it was an interesting acquisition from that perspective. The shareholders or the minority shareholders in RB Plats weren't too happy about that because the offer was made by Northern to the majority shareholders being RBH. So RBH definitely happy with the numbers. Their share price was around 117 rand a share at the time of the offer. It was less than that before they started talks with Impala, and so they're getting a premium on their shares, and they're very happy with this, and they don't have to let go of their entire company. So from their perspective, they're excited about this. I can't see why they'd be complaining about this. It's just the minority shareholders within RB Plats that are not too happy about this. They might have to wait a bit longer to unlock some value, unlock the premium on their shares that they're holding. But overall, it's a good strategic move for Northern. Implats would have been a better view for some, given where Implats is located and how close they are in terms of proximity to RB Plats. But if you look at, like I said, the strategic play from a northern perspective and a longer-term perspective, it also diversifies the business. It improves their BE profile as well, and that sort of thing. I mean, Implats would have become one of the largest, if not the largest, platinum producer on the continent, and that would then have given them quite a big controlling stake in terms of the platinum market, or made them a big influential platinum player in the world as well. I mean, there's other big platinum players in Russia, for example, that Implats would then compete against on that scale. So it is a bit of a bummer for Implats, but it's a good acquisition for Northern.
Absolutely. You win some, you lose some. Jimmy Moyaha is an independent analyst. Thank you.